I have two guest commentators in the studio with me for the rest of the program who will offer their perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. The political affairs commentator, Arise News analyst and head of mass communications at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is here, and the journalist, political affairs commentator and Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu is also here. Thank you very much indeed. And let me start with you, Prof. We haven't seen you in a while. How much of an odd spectacle is all this in light of what you just saw with Kenneth Okonkwo putting up a very robust defense of his principle? But does it look a bit at odds with the conviction of Donyi Okupe, the image he's trying to sustain about his principle?
Well, I thought, yes, I agree with you that it's quite a robust defense, and of course, he lived up to expectation as somebody who is a gifted orator. You know, he spoke, 19 to the dozen, no doubt. Displayed impressive levels of vocal pyrotechnic, and sometimes when he was speaking, I want to believe it appeared as if he was acting again on them.
It did appear like that. Actually, to be honest, I was completely rapt because he's a very watchable character.
That's right, very interesting to listen to, very theatrical, at the same time very deep, very intelligent. His defense was very robust, and of course I enjoyed this analysis, no doubt. But of course we also know who Donyi Okupe is. He's not just starting today, he has a rich history behind him. He's a medical doctor, no doubt. He was very prominent in the old NRC in the period of the military, and of course, after the debacle of that transition, the Babangida transition, he retired to his business, to his medical practice, and Obasanjo brought him out. So he's been very, very prominent in our national political life, and a very intelligent person, no doubt. And this one is happening. Of course, we know what happened, what transpired in the period of President Goodluck Jonathan with the arms fund, So he got caught in the web, and here we are. It's a judicial process. There's probably nothing we can do. The lines of appeal are very clear. Like Kenneth said, the lower court has made its pronouncement. The onus is now on him to go on to the higher court. And I thought he has done something noble, by stepping down from the position of director of DG of the campaign. That's a very noble, honorable path to take, and largely I see him getting a reprieve at some point. Of course, we cannot be prejudicial, but I see him going through the whole log, and probably at some point he might be able to get a reprieve. But in the meantime, he has done something nice, saying that he doesn't want to distract the campaign from proceedings, so he's going to step down. But everything Kenneth said, sometimes I also felt Kenneth was deep, no doubt, very intelligent. Sometimes I also felt that he was somewhat unkind on some of his the other political
he kind of stuck the knife in, didn't
he? Maybe we should excuse that within the realm of the times we were in, the period of campaign. But again, if you spoke to someone else, maybe from the PDP or from the APC, they will sound differently. Well, overall, I think it's a good thing that Labour Party has done, or maybe that Donyi Okupe himself has done by stepping down. Really honorable. It's a nice way to go, and it's a kind of culture that is also good for us to imbibe as a people. When you have one kind of indictment or the other, I mean, you just do the part of honor and keep your dignity, as the case could be.
Let me bring you in, Dr. Ikokwu. Is it your sense that this case has outstanding significance because of its association by extension with Peter Obi? Because I'm wondering what it's likely to do to the support he's cultivated among young people, for instance. I mean, you're a reasonably young person.
Well, if you say so. Thank you. Well, when you look at the supporters of Peter Obi, they're very fanatic. They don't seem to be easily swayed. I think they will weather the storm. I think Labour Party and the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, will weather the storm. It's a good thing, like Prof said, that Dr. Donyi Okupe has resigned or has stepped aside, because you do not want to give your political opponents ammunition to take you down. The other thing is that it also sends a strong message. It would have been symbolically tragic if he did nothing or he decided to stay on. So the message here is that we are not going to be tolerating these kind of things. The other thing is that this is Nigeria. We are a cash-driven society. I'm not surprised by this incident at all, or by this case. We're a cash-driven society. If you begin to scrutinize the papers of every single party, you will find these kind of things.
That's a good point.
Nigerian political terrain is laden, with landmines everywhere. People carry money in bags during campaigns, before campaigns, outside of campaigns. This happened within the presidential office. So it's not rare at all. The point then will be, where do we go from here? Can we have a discussion about money, how we handle money, the sources of money, especially in terms of political campaign during the season? How much money should you be handling? Where should it come from? Should there be a cap? Should there be a limit? This is the kind of discussion we should be having if we want a transformative system. Talking about the new Nigeria, which Peter Obi says that he stands for. But, Dr. Ikokwu has done the right thing. It's a sensible move to have taken, because you want to look at the bigger picture. It's not about him now. It's about the Labour Party. It's about the candidate. It's about the Nigeria that they want to usher in.
That's a very good point. Let me come to you, Prof, because Kenneth Ikokwu made the association rather skillfully, I have to say, but he made the association with the PDP. Yeah. And how much does this establish, beyond the potential stain on Peter Obi's image, the wider complicity of the PDP in corruption-related matters? Because all of this happened under their watch, and is a kind of reminder, as Kenneth was saying, of the rather extensive corruption that many people believe they presided over.
Yeah, Charles, I think the issues are actually complex, rather they are intermixing, and it's going to continue for some time. What just happened is just a reminder of the fact that some of the downsides of the PDP administration in the 16 years that they held sway, are still being reviewed. It's not yet over. And of course, it reminds me of what lawyers say, that crime is not status bad. It can continue for as long as possible, and of course, documents can be brought up anytime for people to come and answer for their infraction on processes and procedures, on rules, as the case could be. But having said that, I think it's just okay for us to also review our system, or for us to introspect and probably find ways of tidying up the way we do things, such that we shouldn't be reckless. We should be law-abiding in all situations. And of course, when rules and regulation are spelled out, it shouldn't just be, for the ordinary person alone, or it shouldn't just be for the one that is powerless, while the powerful ride roughshod on those rules. I'm not sure when Dr. Ikokwu was giving these funds, he would have thought that there will come a day like this where he will be called to come and give account, because he was giving this money, at the commanding heart of the nation's politics. But the presidency, the national security advisor, for instance, probably on the instruction of the president, he could not have imagined that there will come a day that he will be called to come and provide answer, and that's what we're saying, that the laws shouldn't just be made for the regular citizen alone. It should also be made, for those who made the law should also be concerned about implementation. And that's why we'll repeat again for the opt-in time that the institutions of the state should be allowed to function. And when we're talking about institutions here, we're not just talking about the physical institutions, even the virtual institutions like the law. Very, very important. That can make the difference between development and underdevelopment, between progress and retrogression. But when man rules as against law, then again it becomes a problem. Perhaps it's another instance for us to introspect and reflect as citizens, and of course with the leaders at the throttle.
Well, that's a good point. And the other question that he raised, which I'm not really going to get into, was whether or not this case can be seen as politically motivated. But let's move away from that and talk about another issue. What do you make of this allegation by a coalition group that there is a plot to frame the central bank governor Godwin Emefiele as a way of undermining the 2023 election?
Well, Charles, you know, Nigeria is a country of drama of all sorts. So this is a coalition, a group that said it intercepted intelligence that the DSS has brought a case before the Federal High Court in Abuja against the CBN governor, alleging terrorism and financial crimes.
Well, it was on the front page of this day newspaper today as well.
And all of that. This is not new. That's the thing with Nigeria. I do not know if an investigation was ongoing on the CBN governor and then it was leaked. You know, I sort of compare this with cases that have to do with EFCC or ICPC. The case never gets to the end and tidied up and wrapped up before it is announced. It's like somebody leaks it and then we're not sure what is going on. So, but the thing is, the CBN governor or the CBN is independent or is supposed to be independent. So there should be processes. If he has a case to answer, if there are infractions, there should be processes to bring him to book. Having said that, I think the CBN governor is one of the officials, high-ranking or high-profile officials in this government that is in the good books of the APC. I mean, there are so many things that have happened for the last almost 8 years, and he is still sitting on his seat. I think somebody else would have been fired. So except he has fallen out in the last couple of months, I think that he's in the good books of the government. We do not know what is actually going on. I cannot say. But in the following days, as the story unfolds, we might get more information. It might be also critical for the DSS to give a statement and clarify what the issue is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Prof, we've got about a minute or so left. Basically, the claim is that they're after him because of his monetary policies, which they said would prevent politicians from flooding the country with cash in order to influence voters in the election. Does that sound a bit far-fetched to you, or is it a plausible claim?
Well, at the moment, because this is high-wire, high-stake politics, you know, and sometimes it can be very good to be careful with this kind of situation. But I'm happy to go with the statement provided by the DSS that they should be allowed to do their job. There shouldn't be any infraction. And the only thing we can probably say in this circumstance is for all institutions, all agencies of government to be very careful, to be respectful of each other, you know, to privilege consultation, maybe ahead of, you know, sanctions, you know, especially when it concerns, you know, some sensitive state machineries and sensitive officials. We're not saying that they are necessarily above the law, but when we know that some situations can actually trigger some other kinds of crisis, you know, that will come very, very difficult to control, then we should be a little bit circumspect. Otherwise, it's a very delicate, you know, complex matter because of the levels of people we're talking about. But again, I would have thought that one other way to resolve it will have been some level of presidential intervention. You know, if we have a presidential intervention, I'm sure that there could be calm, there could be understanding, and if there's need, you know, for apprehension, you know, for sanction, I mean, for prosecution and sanctioning, why not? You know, because the law shouldn't be a respecter of anybody.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi and Dr. Constance Ikokwu. Thank you ever so much. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.